President Cyril Ramaphosa has received the closeout report of the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, NACAC. The National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council was set up in September 2022 to guide the implementation of the National Anti-Corruption Strategy and, among other things, to advise on strengthening the state's anti-corruption architecture. And to discuss this a bit more further, we are now joined by Senior Counsel, Advocate Paul Pretorius, and he joins us now via our video link. Advocate, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. Let's start off here. We now know that President Cyril Ramaphosa has received that report from, of course, NACAC, which really deals with some of the strategies that government can look into when it comes to fighting corruption. What is your take on, him now receiving this report?
Well, it's about time. That's my first comment. In 2022, the Zondo Commission made two important recommendations. The one is the establishment of a permanent commission of inquiry into state capture and corruption, and the other is an overarching procurement entity. In 2022, you're quite correct, the President then said he would attend to the architecture of law enforcement agencies, and he established NACAC. It was 2 years later that the...
You can go ahead, Advocate. We can still hear you.
It was... Okay, it was, there's some interruption. It was 2 years later that NACAC provided its first interim report in May 2024, and the final report now this last week. Importantly, Cabinet still has to consider the final NACAC report, and Parliament must still consider any necessary legislative changes. So we're some time away from the conclusion. The NACAC recommendation do not alter the fundamental architecture of law enforcement agencies. That architecture, multidisciplinary approach, remains the same. It does, however, recommend the establishment of an Office of Integrity that will absorb the SIU, the Special Investigating Unit. It does recommend that the NPA will be more independent, at least in relation to its finances, but importantly not completely independent from executive control. And that will raise question marks for many experts and advisors. The very important mandate of the NACAC investigation was to look at the strengthening of law enforcement agency in respect of capacity, technology, and the rest. Some recommendations have been made in that regard, but there is no reason to my mind why this couldn't have been done in 2022 or even before 2022. Importantly, supervisory entities like the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence and others have not been discussed, and recommendations, to the best of my knowledge, I may be wrong, have not been entertained. Entities like Crime Intelligence, SSA, require attention.
All right. And dealing with some of the recommendations coming out from that report, I mean, you often say, Advocate, that in the fight against corruption in South Africa, we need a more comprehensive reform when it comes to dealing with issues of, corruption. In detail, what do you mean exactly by that? And does this report then answer that?
Well, the whole architecture, as was promised by the President in 2022, needs thorough reform. From the ground, technology, capacity, right up to the supervisory entity. And we don't have that yet. We have some rearrangement that has been proposed. But fortunately, the Judge Madlanga's terms of reference deal with two very important issues that it must now investigate. One is the accountability of executive members of the executive responsible for law enforcement by commission and, importantly, by omission. So hopefully something will come out of that. And secondly, the effectiveness of supervisory institutions. That has not been adequately attended to, and there's no indication, at least for the present, that it will be attended to, but it requires urgent attention. The activities of parliamentary committees, Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence, the Cabinet Committee that is supposed to supervise the Hawks, within the police, crime intelligence, the other organizations, inter-cabinet or interministerial and in Parliament, need attention, and hopefully they will be called to account in the investigation of the Madlanga Commission.
And Advocate, as you mentioned, the Madlanga Commission, we're now seeing that that commission has since been delayed due to some technicalities when it comes to the equipment that needs to be used in that commission. You have experience when it comes to commissions of inquiry because you were the lead, the evidence leader in the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. And now seeing this back and forth between the police commissioner as well as the police minister, now the EFF also then accusing the minister of political interference pertaining to some of the evidence that will be used in this inquiry. What are your thoughts surrounding this whole process now when it comes to evidence being questioned, evidence that will be very imperative to this upcoming commission?
Well, firstly, the commission is sorely necessary. It is undoubtedly so that the Mkhwanazi allegations must be thoroughly investigated. The terms of reference are extremely wide, though. They include much more than just the allegations relating to the South African Police Service. They're far-ranging. It's very important that the Commission be properly capacitated. It has investigators, it has evidence leaders, it has a secretariat, but it falls under the auspices of the Department of Justice. And it does seem that with the recent delay that the Department of Justice has taken strong action, as it should, because I've said before this week, this is not a question of 90%. It's got to be 100%.
All right, Advocate, thank you so much for your time. That's Senior Counsel, Advocate Paul Pretorius there, just talking to us about this report, which is now in the hands of the President. Also there, just giving us a few nuggets when it comes to the upcoming Madlanga Commission.